This is episode 30 of the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. In this episode, it is all about JK. Some lessons we learned leading into the Hong Kong Major and his fantastic win there. We discuss something that happened the week of the race where JK almost didn't race, almost had to be a late withdrawal. Why don't you take a listen? Let's make hybrid fitness work for you. So we're gonna wait for JK here, but pretty exciting. We had a pretty good weekend over in Hong Kong already. Looks like JK's jumping on right now. How's it going, Mr. Champion of Major number 2 out in Hong Kong?
Thank you. Thank you, Coach. I'm well, mate. How are you going?
Good. I'm very
Can you hear me
exhausted.
okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. No background noise either. I was surprised. I thought you were at the venue.
No, back at the hotel.
But
Oh,
just telling everybody that we didn't have an agenda for this one. I was gonna invite somebody on, but I got caught up driving between Salt Lake City and Las Vegas, and I actually got in right before the event started. So the Hong Kong Major, the women's race began at 3 a.m. my time, which means the stream started at 2:30. I pulled into my driveway on my drive back from Vegas at about 2:20, 2:15, 2:20 a.m.
no way.
Got Lily out of the car, took her upstairs, put her in her bed. Well, actually, I put her in a pack and play in a dark room. And then uh, I unloaded the car, and then I was started watching the pre-show and unloaded the car while that all went. And then I sat down for the women's race and watched the women's race. And I watched Kate Davey and Lauren Griffith punch their ticket to Worlds. So on
Yeah,
the women's side now, 50%, 3 out of the 6 slots are hybrid engine athletes.
yeah. That's kudos to you,
Yeah,
Anthony,
it's
there. And
pretty exciting.
I was just for the listeners, I was trying to set up a time for myself and the ladies from the hybrid engine to meet, but just to let you know, listeners, most of the athletes kind of had a bit of um, a very quick trip. I think due to the fact that obviously Hong Kong's a further distance away from home for most. So I know Lauren Griffith, I know even my athlete Jess Petro have already gone, and it's only 12 hours since the race. So
Zara,
apologies
yeah.
about that. Yeah, Zara's gone already. So, and your Lauren leaves tonight, doesn't she, Anthony?
Yeah, so she should be at the venue right now. Uh, she did a little morning workout, and then I believe it's like 4:30 almost your time at the venue, and she needs
Yeah,
to be at the airport, I believe, around 6 or 7 p.m.
yeah. And I think she's excited to get home to you both.
Yeah, she's got a long flight. It's interesting. It's when we fly over the States, I'm pretty sure it's longer to get from Salt Lake to like New York or Florida than it is Florida to Salt Lake. Um,
Okay.
so like west to east is a longer flight than east to west. But when you go over the Pacific Ocean, apparently it's faster. So she had a nonstop flight from San Francisco to Hong Kong on the way there
Right.
that
Yeah.
was like 17 straight hours or 16 straight hours or something like that. Super long, very
Wow.
long.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember I remember I like had a whole night's sleep and felt like a day um before she said she landed. But on the way back, it's only a 13-hour flight.
Why is that?
I think it's because of the rotation of the Earth, like
Oh,
going
okay.
with the
That's
Earth
interesting.
or against the Earth versus with the Earth. Um, and so and it's got to be path too, because they fly over a sphere, so they fly over the ball path. But um, she flies, yeah, from Hong Kong to LA on the way back. And what's funny is she takes off 9 p.m. on a Saturday in Hong Kong and lands 10 p.m. on a Saturday in Salt Lake. But she
Almost gains a day. Yeah,
but it's
almost
like
gains time.
17 total hours of flight time or something, or 17 total hours of travel. Coming back, going
Yeah,
there was like 33 hours of like
yeah,
total
crazy,
travel. So
crazy, right?
and
Um,
actually I did talk to Lauren and Lauren. They might want to jump on a Zoom call later in the week if we did want to do another episode with them. So be looking for that. And then I'm gonna
sure.
channel E and K here. Listener, look for that.
Yeah,
We might
he,
drop a special episode still. If we can line up JK and the other women as well, maybe we'll get the full crew, just virtually full crew. We could all have a part of it. But otherwise, yeah, we'll talk about that. And then when we get to that, you might hear Lauren Griffith's amazing travel to Hong Kong, where
I know,
he
I
actually
know.
almost missed the race.
Yeah, yeah. We might leave it for her
Yeah,
to
she
tell,
almost
but she
she
almost
almost
missed it,
spent the
didn't
weekend in Korea
it?
instead. Um,
Yeah,
got there Thursday, when she meant to get there like Tuesday.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so going on, and that's just a signal to me, just in case. JK, do you want to talk about your almost earlier in the week trouble?
yeah,
Or you
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
do want to? Okay. All right. So
yeah,
we'll
yeah, yeah.
just because we haven't talked about that before jumping on this,
Sure.
so I wanted to make sure that was okay with you. So we're not going to edit this. JK, let's talk about your lead in to the race. Actually, the day that you flew from Australia to Hong Kong, um, which we haven't said on the podcast yet, listener. If you haven't already watched the Hong Kong Major, JK went out, put a big stamp on his season right there, and secured his entry into the majors for next season by winning the Hong Kong Major, second major of the season. And I know it was a race with Tim Vinish, but even at the rower, when I watched you take the rower, I was like, JK won. I didn't like I know he passed you a couple times after that, but in watching it, I knew you'd won. It was pretty
I
exciting.
knew,
And nothing against Tim on that. I could see your
no,
body language,
no.
and I saw the way you were doing everything, and I was like, he doesn't lose here.
Mm,
Plus, I went
yeah,
back and looked and saw that you had in Amsterdam had 45 seconds on Tim on the wall balls alone. So I knew like you were going to pass him even if it came to that because you wouldn't let him get that far ahead at that point.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And that's not a Tim had a fantastic race,
a
absolutely
wonderful
fantastic
race.
race.
And
But
we actually talked. So you and I talked last week, and I remember I feel like I feel like I called the race, and I wish I would have recorded that between you and me because I remember we talked about it, and I was like, I think there's going to be the top five, and I believe we both said it was going to be. I thought Paleo, Tim, then Graham,
yeah,
but the three of them in some order, they did fantastic, and yeah, it was a fantastic race. I had a feeling that you were gonna win, but I didn't think, and I thought Ronk would be third, I believe is where I put him, but I didn't see him falling down to sixth.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
Okay, so before we jump too far ahead, let's go back. Day you left Brisbane or Gold Coast for Hong Kong.
Yeah, it was a normal training day for me, and coming off a pretty decent loading week or volume week. And long story short, listener, I pretty much had a very something to go. So the day that I was traveling to Hong Kong, um, was 6 nights out from the race. So last Saturday, and um, it was a normal training day for me, and it was after my thresholds. Sorry, no, I didn't threshold. I had an overspeed session, rowing and running. After that, I went into some deadlifts and uh, heavy-ish deadlifts. And long story short, I did something to my QL, which is your quadratus lumboris. Is that the right
Yeah,
way to say it?
I just when I hear QL, I just call it quadrilateral, and it's
Quadrilateral.
also like towards that SI joint area.
And over the space of 30 minutes, my back absolutely seized up. Couldn't walk pretty much. And right there and then, I was thinking, oh my God, like what's going to happen next week? So, I was obviously messaging you, Anthony, about it, and did what I could on that day to obviously prepare to leave for um, the airport, hopped on the plane, etc., and did that, and
So
landed in a Hong Kong. Yeah, sorry,
so I just wanted
you
to
go.
interrupt there. I got a call maybe 3 or 5 minutes after JK finishes. The last thing of the day, he did some sumo deadlifts, moderate weight. It was, and we can explain this in a different episode, but it was just a little CNS primer that we do at the last time that he would be flying away, so before he gets on his flight. And he jumps on a flight after that. And when your QL is tightened, and you get on something like that, it gets really stiff. When JK says he was worried, there was considerable thought put into pulling out of the race and not competing
Yeah,
over the course of about 3 days.
yeah. I I landed in Georgie and I landed in Hong Kong on Sunday morning. Sunday night, I told Georgie blatantly, if the race was tonight, I would not be racing. Monday night, I said exactly the same thing. I couldn't run. I couldn't, every time I walked, could feel it. Tuesday was the same thing. If the race was tonight, I wouldn't be racing. Um,
And
so
the reason we're going over this, I just want to explain a little bit, is not to say like, look what JK did while he was hurt. The reason we're going over
no,
this is because I want to illustrate how you need to be adaptive in your training. You need to be able to assess and understand that your body is going to recover from most things, and that if you actually take the time to address something, good things come off of it. And
mm,
you, JK, were very worried. You ended up going to, I think, in total, three separate physios,
correct.
three
Yeah,
separate
yeah,
PTs, and one of them really helped you, dug in there, helped release, gave you some stretches and stuff to do. We basically took you off your taper, and went into, all right, let's do what you can and try to still hit these things. It wasn't going to change your fitness. You're a week away from the race. We knew you were fit. We knew you were ready, but we just wanted to make sure at this point, the most important thing was getting you healthy Sorry, one second, man. You're kind of loud in the background. Just gonna, the most important thing was getting you healthy so that you could take the floor. There wasn't any concern at this point about getting you fitter. There wasn't any concern about the movement. We wanted to touch the movement patterns, but we wanted to make you comfortable enough to be able to toe that line and express your fitness on this race course.
Yeah, exactly. And as you just said, Anthony, for the listener, this is just the honest truth about what happened. It's not about me telling you guys what happened to boost my own ego even more. It's more the fact that if you've raced in a HYROX, you want to make sure leading into it, you're mentally prepared, right? We all know how important that is. And last week for me, I really had to be very okay with adapting day by day because I knew if I wanted to give myself the best opportunity to race, I had to do that. I had to do that because my taper was was not the taper that I normally do leading in, and that, as you know, Anthony, because we were talking pretty much 24/7, that absolutely um, frustrated me. And we got to Wednesday though, and after seeing some PTs and getting some work done, I woke up Wednesday morning feeling a lot better and was able to run on Wednesday, which gave me a lot of confidence. Um,
Yeah, so about that, just kind of some of the things I want to tell you guys what we did is JK, we assessed what he was and was able to do. Basically, he couldn't squat, he couldn't hinge, and he couldn't run. So couldn't do anything needed in the race. That was beginning on Saturday when he hurt his back, or QL. Sunday when he arrived in Hong Kong. That was Monday. Monday, what we ended up doing, I believe it was Monday, JK went and swam because he was able to swim. He rode the bike and incline hiked. So those are the types of things that we replaced because that's what we did, what he was able to do. And we will do a future episode on what I like to call working wounded. But basically, you you do the things that you're capable of at the intensities they're meant to be done, and you'll still go into the race feeling good as long as you let your body recover. And that's what we did. So JK didn't run, didn't squat, and didn't hinge Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 5 days leading into the race.
yeah, and in hindsight, if I tried, I wouldn't have been able to race, I believe. And obviously, fast forward the clock to Thursday, I woke up even better, and then Friday, I obviously woke up still having a little bit of a doubt in my mind, but ended up waking up going, okay, it's race day, I'm on. Needing to get some work done again on Friday morning, then Friday before the race. Kudos to my physio who actually ended up coming out and really helping me out to just get my body prepared.
So
And
tell us some of the things you did in terms, because we talked about how you released it, you stretched, you did mobility. What did you do?
so look, like every like the first and foremost thing that I'm proud of, to be honest, is every morning I woke up and the first hour of my morning was mobilizing. Mobilizing my hips was the most important thing. So really stretching out my hip flexors, abductors, and also my glutes. My glutes were very tight. So when it's interesting with a an injury like this, yes, it's my QL, my back just really sharpened up and spasmed. But with a lot of injuries, that's not necessarily to do with the back. It's to do with the actual tightness of the muscles around the back, right? So it was more to do with my hips, my glutes, etc. So a lot of mobilizing with the resistance band, also trigger pointing with the ball as well. So every morning, an hour in the morning, and then closer to the race, I was able to get a little bit more activation work in from my physio. So a little bit more, um, um, yeah, like activating the muscles around the back to make sure that I'm not going to have to, let's just say, use the back as much, if that makes sense. And that's what we did an hour before my race. She was able to be with me, triggered, activated my glutes, my hamstrings, especially my upper back, my thoracic. And in my what I did that, an hour before my race, warmed up, and I was good to go. I was good to go.
It's fantastic. So that's the whole lead in mostly to the race. I want to go over the race because if nobody watched, that was very exciting, especially the first 1 kilometer. It looked like you took it out and there was Sandy and Tim, and you guys were all like, I want the lead. No, I want the lead. I want the lead. You guys, and we'd watch you cut each other off. And then I just saw the like playful look in JK's eyes there to, hey, I'm gonna take it back. Oh, look, he thinks he's gonna take the lead from me. Oh, scoop by this little rail, boom, I'm in. And then when it came to entering the rock zone, it was kind of a game face of you're not taking this machine from me. You were getting there. Um, and if anybody doesn't know, this is something we did a little differently this time in this race than past races. You watch JK, he usually doesn't go out and hit hard that first run. But it was something that we were kind of trying out just on this race to see what would happen in that first 1,000.
Yeah, I for the listeners to understand more so, Anthony and I, and from my end, Anthony, I call them the one percenters, the rock zone running, and just viewing the course right last night. And I'm okay to talk about it because it's been and done now. Every time we had to enter the rock zone, every station was a 180-degree turn. So I knew for a fact that I could gain ground by making sure that I would pivot and push off very aggressively into that rock zone. So that's something that right from the get go, I was able to do. And hence why, as you just said, Anthony, I was able to secure that first ski. Now, I'm not saying that was my goal all along to be on that first ski, but it was a statement for me. And between Anthony and I, it was a statement for me to to be on that first ski, to not allow them to bank up a lot of time on that ski, because we all know that I don't know, I'm not going to go too aggressive on that ski. Um, and then it just unfolded that, I'll be honest with you, I knew, even though that, Michael, Tim, and Alex ended up 8 to 9 seconds on top of me from the ski, I was fine with that. I was totally fine with that. And
I mean, if we go back
we
to Nice and to Amsterdam, they were 14 to 16 seconds ahead of you. So coming out of the ski, if they're only 8 to 9, you're making huge improvement there.
exactly, and at, like, more importantly, I was fresh. I was ready to run. I was ready to run fast, aggressive. Um, Same thing kind of goes into the sleds. I was so adamant about, as soon as I hit that rock zone, I was pivoting and going. And I can't remember which one. It was the sled push or the sled pull. I, I was able to gain another spot. I think it was Tim or Alex or something in between, in between the rock zone and the actual station. But the sleds. I'll just be honest, and I'm just like open to talking about it. Um they were normal. They were normal, um heavy sleds. I'm just gonna say. They weren't moving like Amsterdam. I'll be totally honest. They weren't moving like Amsterdam, but they were consistent heavy sleds. And then yeah, the race unfolded that obviously Rylan had a good crack early on, and he was someone to chase early on, and so was obviously Tim. But I just knew deep down early on that I was in control of that race from the get go. The champions and 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 I personally think that um, that's only to do with the confidence that I've actually put in. Um, well done, mate. Yeah. I've uh, I've been
So,
able to.
so tell me a little bit about, because one of the things that I really liked was obviously like you came out hard off the burpees and you went into that run and you and Tim were neck and neck into the rock zone. Tim a little ahead of you. He slows down and you just sweep his rock zone and take that first rower.
Is the question why, or is it like
Yeah,
I?
like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
what was the inspiration behind that? Because that's when I saw you do that, I was like, all right, JK's on his game today. He's, I think he has this. And then when I saw you come out of the farmer carry and you kept extending lead after lead, and then finally on the lunges, we were back to JK lunging like he lunged in Nice, and it was beautiful.
Uh, and as I said at the start of the podcast, kudos to Tim. He had a magnificent race, but
Hmm.
that that was a statement from my end that I wanted to be the first on the rower, because I knew that um, even if it was a couple seconds, I knew that would um, play a bit of a game in his head. However, let's be honest, he actually ended up
He
getting
comes
off the rower
he
before
comes
me.
off the rower before you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did.
which which again, in my eyes, I actually knew that was going to happen because I don't want to I don't want to smash my rowers, so that my run afterwards is going to bleed. But I knew that was going to happen. It was more of a statement. It was more of a statement saying, you know what, I'm ready to attack the end of the race.
So he comes out of the rower 5 seconds ahead of you, and then you come into the farmer carry 8 seconds ahead of him. So you had a 13-second swing on that run.
Yeah, well, I actually didn't. I did see my splits, but I didn't think about it that way. I think, which is, yeah, um, um, yeah, I'm proud of that. I don't know what to say, but I think what we're saying there is um, that's my tactic. That's my race tactic, or that was my race tactic last night. Executed that perfectly, and then was able to run really well off and gain that lead. And when I took that lead, or when I gained back the lead on the run after the road, I remember um, taking that, and in my head, I took him and I took him fast. I didn't just slowly, gradually overtake him. I took him
So
aggressively, and
yeah, and you actually had to take him a couple times, more than once. I think there was like three of them. But the last time you took him was going into the sandbag lunges, and right there, like we had talked about, going in, you had a 5 second lead. Coming out, you had a 17-second lead. So you'd put 12 seconds on in the station. And then one of my favorite here, going into the wall balls, you were up by 16 seconds. It was like 8 wall balls. Uh, you did fantastic on yours. You ended up winning by over a minute. So
yeah,
you actually won by a minute six. You get 50 seconds in the wall balls alone. That was
wow,
a fantastic
mm,
showing there. And JK, the best thing about that is you still broke. So there's more room for improvement.
yeah. And I'm
And
laughing there because Anthony and I have a goal of going 100 wobbles unbroken in a race, and I still haven't done. Still haven't
and
done it
I mean we've hit all the other goals so far. Let's
so
keep it
far.
rolling. So you ran a 55:16. It's not a PR, it's actually your I don't remember if it's your third or fourth best time.
Third, I think
Third best
third.
time?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. It was a great race. It obviously was not a, as they call it here, a fast course. Uh, but you took what the course gave you and
yeah.
came out with a 55:16, which, I mean, just what, last year, even beginning of last year, that was
Right.
close to a world record. That might have been a world
Mm,
record. Same thing like the year before that, definitely a world record. Like there's only three or four men that have ever gone faster than that anyway. So like you've I think solidified that you haven't ran anything over with the exclusion of your Sydney race, you haven't ran anything over 55, 30, 55, or 56. We'll just call it 56. You haven't ran slower than a 56 in eight
yeah,
months.
yeah, yeah.
And
8 months.
you haven't ran slower than a 56 in 8 months. And the one that you did was actually how we talked about, even on this, we talked about it. It was in Sydney, and that's because you trained right through the race. You never had a
Yeah,
rest day or a taper into that race. That was literally training through the race. And the race was your
yeah,
training stimulus. Uh,
correct.
but man,
And
I mean, 54s and 55s for you now.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny because, just query in my head, Anthony, is like, okay, where's that next 1% going to come where I'm cracking that 54 and I'm going 54, 53, 54, 53,
Yep.
52. And that's
That
something that,
that's what we're looking at.
that's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking at. But to the listener, just to let you know, like, just two things to kind of sum all this up. How have I been able to go from um, being a consistent 58-minute um, um, pro athlete to now a consistent 54, 55? It is literally just the consistent training volume that I have banked up. Nothing else. Sorry, yes, there is one more thing. I'm going all in. I'm going 110% all in. I'm not going 99% all in. 99% all in is great, but that's that's what was giving me a 58, a 59 sometimes. I'm 110% all in. Now that I'm 110% all in and I'm creating such a base, foundational fitness base consistently all year round, is the reason why I've been developing in this space.
I
And
was curious. I wanted to hear what you had to say on that. I think
mm,
that one of the other things here is that you not only are being consistent with it, but I think having because you know how to train for a HYROX. You know how to program for a HYROX. You don't need me programming for you. Uh, but one of the things that helps with is brain power, and you don't have to think about it. You clock in, you do your stuff, and you can go. And that makes a difference because that's less stress, right? You can not necessarily have less stress, but you can direct it where it needs to go.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just, and like, I know I do thank you a lot, Anthony, but it's the it's the coaching and the guidance that I've gotten more than anything as well, and having you in my corner. Um, Listener though, like, it's because
Well,
I love it as well.
he
It's because
is
I love it.
he is getting me back here, guys, because the next major I'm running a doubles with JK.
That's it. Yeah, it's happening.
And he told me we have to run
Vegas
330s per kilometer. And I told him I can do
330s.
8 by 1K at 330 as long as I do nothing in between.
You're doing a little bit, mate. You are doing a little bit.
So
I'm
we'll
excited
see.
for
We'll
that.
see.
Hey, on that note, that's only 9 weeks away. Did you realize that? That's only 9 weeks away.
Was it at 10 weeks? Yeah.
Ten weeks. 10 weeks.
So
Yeah,
we'll get moving there. I know you got to go. So I'm not going to keep you longer because JK's about to go do his own doubles again with
that's
Georgie.
it.
And if you don't know who
That's it.
Georgie is, he's the girl that was, or sorry, Georgie's the girl that was standing off the side of the stage there that JK runs up to right after his race and starts sweating all over and
Yeah.
hugging.
Man, she loves it. She loves it.
Yeah.
But thank you, listeners, and thank you, Anthony. And we'll talk real soon.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for jumping on, JK.
Always.
Have a
Thanks,
good one.
mate.
If you guys want to get trained by JK, you can find him on Instagram at jk.jameskelly on Instagram. You can send him any questions, look up his training program, or you can look up me, Anthony Parasini, at the Hybrid Engine. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them to us and we can answer them on the podcast, or might even send you one answer back and still answer it on the podcast. Or if it's a great question and it takes a whole podcast to address, we can do that as well. And we appreciate if anybody can like, comment, subscribe, help us out. The best thing you could do for us to help spread us to as many people as we can help would be to press those three little dots, rate or review this podcast. That really helps it out, and follow it so that you get notified whenever we drop a new episode. Thank you guys and have a great day. Thank you for listening to the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. If you have any questions you'd like your host to answer, or if you'd like to reach out and ask us any questions or inquire about training, please reach out to James Kelly on Instagram at jk.jameskelly. That's jk.jameskelly on Instagram. Or you can find him, Georgie Vesley and James Kelly, on YouTube. You can also find me, Anthony Parasini, at The Hybrid Engine on Instagram or The Hybrid Engine on YouTube. Thank you again for listening and have a great day.